drink and smoke, take away the pain, and you don't remember.
So we started podcasting. So I actually started this with one of my best friends, George, back in 2020 because we were getting older and we just wanted to hang out like once a week.
Yeah.
And just make sure we were catching up, staying involved in each other's lives because, again, the older you get, the tougher it is to stay connected. So we started in 2020 with the goal of doing one episode a week for 52 weeks, and then, kind of took off a little bit, and then COVID happened, so we were doing a lot of virtual, and then we stopped doing virtual. We kept doing in person because nobody could do in person. Like, no real media outlets could do anything, but we weren't a real media outlet. So we were doing a lot of in person during COVID, and we had a whole bunch of Olympians, athletes, musicians, a lot of musicians actually. And then and then he stopped about 5 months ago. He's just too busy. He's got he's getting married soon. He's just super busy with work. So I said okay. Then she was part of it. She was kind of managing it more off camera, but she had a mic. And then I was like, hey Danny, let's do this together. And we're about 10 episodes in together?
I think so. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like less, but
I feel like it feels like more because you've been part of it for the last 50 episodes.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's nice because you have a female perspective now, right? Before it was just two guys, and if you get another guy on, sometimes it becomes a boys episode, right? So now we have a female perspective, which is nice.
Yeah. What made you guys do 52 weeks, or did you pick a time frame you wanted to do it consistently for?
Yeah, we said we were gonna do just one a week for the year. It was a New Year's resolution.
52 weeks is a year.
Yeah, so that's why we said we'll do it once because at least it guarantees that we hang out. We spend 2 to 3 hours together a week, just catching up on each other's lives and just maintaining our friendship. Because again, I don't know how old are you?
I turned 30 last November.
Exactly. So again, it's one of those things. The older you get, the less time you have for your friends. Everyone's getting married. Everyone's doing their things, busy with work, having kids. If you don't make plans a month in advance, it's tough to see your friends.
Yeah.
So that's why I said we'll do it once a week. And we were 30 at the time in 2020, or going into 2020, we were turning 30. Yeah.
Nice.
So it was, that's it. But anyways, we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about you.
Yeah.
I guess, do you want to give a quick intro on who you are and what you do for the people listening?
Yeah, sure. I go by Nashid Chroma. I'm an artist in the city, and I've been doing my thing for 2.5 years full time now, and kind of just trying to work on my craft, make artwork that speaks to people, make artwork that I'm inspired by. I've had a chance to do some pretty cool collaborations. I've worked with Adidas. I've worked with the Raptors, Argonauts, Leafs. It's been cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to ask, and this is a good segue to start. When you did the billboard stuff, where'd that idea come from? Because I know part of the ad was I showed a bunch of museums my artwork, and they didn't accept it, so I decided to put them all over the city or something. And I remember seeing this a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the smartest, coolest idea ever, because I remember seeing them. I'm like, that art's fucking sick. And then I saw the ads or saw the Instagram post, and I'm like, holy fuck, he did that himself. That's a fucking genius idea. Which other, how else do you get your art in front of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, right? Fuck, put it on a billboard, put it outside for everybody to see. And there was one right near here, actually, right on Spadina, right?
Yep.
Yeah, fuck. How'd you think of the idea, or where'd it come from?
Yeah, I mean, my goal in 2021, at this point, I lost my job. I was working in architecture up until November 2020. I lost my job the day before my birthday. So I'm full-time artist, fresh off the press, going into 2021. I'm feeling good. I feel like I've developed a really strong skill set. And I was just asking you about your cadence, because I did something similar in 2020 where I wanted to make one artwork a day for the year to try and build an audience, build out my skill set to maybe start a business with it after. I had no intention of selling my artwork or even thinking people would want to buy my artwork. But, things don't always work out the way you expect, but it was a great outcome. So now I'm 2020 comes to an end. I'm selling my artwork. I'm feeling good. Now the question is, how do I showcase my artwork to people in the way that I feel like it should be showcased, which is in a large format and printed. So I had the chance to showcase my artwork at this cafe called Malo.
Is that the first place that gave you a nice break?
Yeah, they were super nice about it. I pull up, I see that they have artwork on the walls. I asked them if I could do that, and they just wanted to see my work. I showed them my stuff, and they were super down. While my artwork was up, they gave me 2 months actually They gave me free coffee. Anyone who I brought got free coffee. So like I was pampered. I got the royal treatment. So I just thought it was gonna be easy like that, you know. Moving forward, it was not the same. Like there were so many spots that were like, oh, like it's digital artwork. It's not like, you know, it's not real, and like it was really like frustrating, aggravating, and like discouraging, really, because like, yo, my artwork it's as real as it gets. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Procreate at all. It's a painting software on iPad, and it'll track how long each painting takes. It'll also tell you how many like brush strokes you put down on each piece. And these pieces are clocking in like on average at around 50,000 brush strokes. And for like someone to like look at me and be like, yeah, just because like there's no like pigment on a canvas, it's not real. It was like, the fuck is wrong with you?
No, but it's funny because now that's the old way of thinking, where it's like, oh, you need to physically do it. You need to be on a canvas with paint, water paint, oil, blah, 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 blah. It's like, just because someone's doing it digitally doesn't make it not art. Like, do you know, see that new art where it's those ones where you constantly zoom in and it's just more and more and more? Yeah, like, I see that now and I'm like, that's so insane. 10 years ago, that, or maybe not 10, maybe 20 years ago, that wasn't even a thought. There was no such thing as that. Now it's like, you know what I'm talking about? The ones where you zoom in. So like now, like I feel like it's almost a matter of time till not all art, obviously, but like new forms of media will be digital. New forms of art.
Even when you're thinking of like how everything's turned digital, art has gone the digital route as well.
Like even your architecture stuff, when you were working, like 20 years ago, it was all pen and paper. Now I don't think any architects probably do pen and paper. It's all digital now.
That's what I'm saying. Like
everything is, not everything, but like, majority of stuff is digital.
Animation movies, like all of this stuff, video games. Like where do you like draw the line on art? And that's the thing. Like art culture has like this really like strict, sometimes black and white view on like what constitutes like fine art versus non-fine art. And even me like specializing in pop art was like a taboo thing. I was like scared to do it because I was scared that people were gonna look at me as less of an artist because I'm making fan art or whatever you'd want to call it. But like, you know, there was a point where it really came down to I'm actually inspired by people. Like that's like one of the biggest things that moves me. I love music. I love musicians. And so I just tapped into that. And I think that authenticity resonates with people. And that's what has led to like my success as an artist, being true to myself and like the best way to create what inspires me.
So I'm asking a quick question. You mentioned getting laid off and then going at it this full time. Would you ever go back into architecture?
Probably not.
Because I had a career switch during COVID too. So like I understand. Like I went from being in like marketing and events, and I'm an accountant now.
What?
Yeah, like complete switch.
Wild.
It's wild. Yeah.
How did that happen?
It started off as a joke, and then I basically was like, "Okay, let me," because I get my degrees in something else. So I was like, I got to take like an accounting class. Let me see if I like it. If I don't hate it, I'll do it. I'll try out the company within 3 months. If I don't like it, like we'll just know it's done. I'll like look for another job. Anyways, I started it and I loved it. Now I'm like 3 years in. But
wow.
Do I love what I did before? 1000%. I was in like live events.
Yeah.
I worked at MLSE for a bit.
Yeah.
But it's just like I also love what I'm doing now. And I would just integrate what I'm doing now into like my next step in my career. So like, would you ever go back? Or is this like, this is it now?
No, that's amazing. I don't think I would personally. Like, I don't think I would go back in the capacity of working for another architecture firm. Mm-hmm. I think what might happen in like the distant future, or maybe not so distant future, is like if I practice architecture, it would be as an artist and like use my knowledge of like design and like all the software and how like things come together to create like large scale sculptural work. Or maybe it's like if I open up like a flagship store, maybe I'm designing that myself with like the help of like my other friends.
So like using your skills to like what's gonna take you to that next step in the future. Were you always into this? Like art? Like, and especially like digital, like all of that?
No, not digital. I loved art my whole life. I moved around a lot as a kid, and the story I tell people is that it was hard to make friends, really, because like I was moving maybe once every year.
Oh shit, that's a lot.
It's a lot, and like it puts a lot of stress on a kid, right? Like, but I
Were you always in the city, or did you grow up outside?
so I was born in Bangladesh, moved to Montreal, then moved to Toronto. From Toronto, moved to Cali, and in Cali I first lived in LA and then to the OC, then moved back to Toronto, then moved to Bangladesh, came back, and in Toronto this time I moved
Holy
like 3
shit.
more times. It's like really hard on a kid to like move around that much, and like
And you're not even just moving like from Vaughan to Toronto.
Yeah.
Like you're moving like
Countries.
cross country, across the ocean.
yeah, exactly.
wild.
Like I think about that kid and it's like I feel so bad for him because he had no control over where he was, who like he can bond with, but like my relationship with art was the only consistent thing. And I think it was that like initial like love and stability that like kind of perpetuated throughout my life. I ended up studying art in my undergrad. I studied fine art and psychology at Waterloo before doing my master's of architecture. And even that like was to, well, when I say even that, I mean getting into architecture school was like a goal because I didn't think I could make a living as an artist. Like I had no idea how to do that. And it sounded like really risky, you know, the whole trope, like starving artist, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, like in art school, I did a lot of sculpture stuff with the intention of getting into architecture school. Like it wasn't focused like I was creating honest, authentic stuff, but it was always with like the agenda of like how do I make a portfolio that'll get me accepted. I do architecture school, and it like I guess the long story short of it is I ended up at a firm that really like let me do what I wanted to do, which is like kind of rare for an
Definitely.
architecture student right out of school. They let me kind of have full autonomy. I was in the design department. Like I was doing cool shit. And despite all that, I still wasn't finding fulfillment. And, you know, after 9 years of school, being able to do what like other kids in my cohort would have been so envious of and still not feeling happy, it was like, what do I do? Like I was thinking about switching careers at this point. I did like a UX part-time course thinking maybe I'll try a different design industry.
Get into tech.
Yeah, it was like maybe graphic design. Like what else could I do that might bring me satisfaction? But, you know, I really had to like sit with like that idea, like will these other industries bring me satisfaction, or am I just romanticizing them the way I romanticized architecture? And I kind of realized that everything was like a compromise, and art really was my longing. So I decided like, hey, maybe I just try to commit 1 year of my life to art and see what happens. And like I structured it so there was like a cadence involved, like a consistency practice. Like I have to do one of these things a day. I got my iPad in 2019 as a birthday gift from like all my family and friends, and that really helped because one of the things I don't like about traditional art is how messy it is. Like every time you're gonna paint something, you have to set up, and then you have to clean up after you're done. Then you have to figure out where you're gonna store all these things.
I let the painting dry.
Well, it's like you need like a full other space almost to keep it if you want to have like everything just like out all the time, where you don't care about the mess or this. Like
Yeah, exactly. And like I didn't have that space. I was living with my parents at that time. What else? And then if you wanted to post it to social media, which was like another active component of this challenge, like I have to take photos of it. I have to make sure the photos look nice to accurately like portray the physical art.
Yep.
And I didn't have like a camera rig or like the means to do that. Like the iPad already was like out of my budget. So it was like crazy that I got that as a gift. So I tried digital art for the first time, and it was absolutely awful. It's really hard to add texture in a digital work environment. If that makes no sense to you, like I would suggest just trying, if you have an iPad, to download Procreate and make something, and you'll notice very quickly, like everything just looks so childish or like juvenile,
Cartoony.
Yeah. And so my practice has kind of evolved to be like this form of expression and like visual aesthetic that I translate a physical kind of texture into a digital space. So when my prints are printed out, especially on canvas, you will think that this was painted with physical paint, but that's like the illusion of the technique. Where
I had no idea everything you did was digital. And like I've seen like the piece you did for Vicky.
Yeah.
And I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what was the piece you did for MLC?
Is this the...
I saw a piece that he did like personally for Vicky. Like she has one at her condo.
Yeah, I don't know which one.
Has like flowers on it.
Well, like I feel like most of your stuff has flowers.
Yeah.
No, I know, but like I'm trying to just like I can't just like I just like I've seen it. I just can't.
Well, just who's the character, or who's the person?
Do you know? You can phone a friend.
Yeah, that's it. We'll text her.
Yeah.
Oh, Vicky
might
probably
have a picture
posted
of
it.
it.
Yeah. I want to ask, like, where'd the idea come from? Like, was it just like you saw, I don't know, cool picture of Drake, and you're like, or who was the first actually?
The first was the Weeknd.
The first real, The Weeknd. That was your first. So how did it start? You just saw a picture of The Weeknd. I'm like, I'm gonna cut off half his face and put flowers and stuff.
No, actually, the Weeknd piece I did was not a floral piece.
Okay.
Like, there was a whole series of like pop artwork where it was just like the artist and like there wasn't any floral coverings. The floral coverings happened because as I was posting these artworks onto Etsy, music labels were like flagging them, thinking they were like photographs and taking my artwork down. And that was like a weird kind of situation because the legalities around creating artwork are kind of a gray zone. And like technically I have the right to create whatever inspires me as long as the pieces that I'm making are like substantially different from my reference images and like hard to replicate. And like most people would not be able to replicate the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah. But the originals were kind of like the first, like that first.
The originals were definitely more similar to my reference images, and I was like chasing after a photorealistic style. But at that time, I was really focused on color and like how to use really bright, bold colors to like create texture, as I said earlier. And then the flowers kind of came from the frustration of having my artwork taken down, where now I was like kind of pushed in a corner and I was like, I can keep making artwork and like be stubborn about it, but why not be playful about it and cover the faces of these people that I'm painting and see what happens. I always love flowers. Like even in undergrad, like I was very focused on like just like botanical work using fabrics that had flowers on them. And prior to the pop art stuff, I was like in my daily portrait stuff, I was covering faces, either like half covering or like full covering, whatever it was. Something about it just I found really interesting. So it kind of like coalesced in that moment where like, you know, push came to shove and I wanted to keep working on pop art, and I was like, let's cover these faces with flowers and just see what happens. The first one I did was the Frank Ocean piece, Blonded, and that one was an easy one to do because his hand's already like covering half of his face, so I just put the flowers behind his hands and it just took off. Like people loved it, and that was like really exciting for me because it was just like a really original kind of novel idea for me based on like, you know, circumstance, and I just like kind of doubled down.
But it's also like adaptability, right? You could have just been stubborn, kept doing what you're doing, got taken down, and you know, maybe you wouldn't have been where you are today if you didn't. Okay, hey, you know what? I got to do something else. I love flowers. I love the idea of flowers. Let's add the two together: flowers, portraits, realistic or pop art. You know, blending the two together, and it's such a different look. And that's kind of, you know, I'm not saying it's what led you to where you are now, but it's probably a good part of what led you to where you are now, right? Like if you didn't do this different style, maybe your career wouldn't have taken off to where it is now, right? Maybe you wouldn't have been able to do art full time if you didn't have this kind of conception or of two ideas coming together. I don't even know what I'm saying. Do you guys follow? Does it make sense?
Yeah,
What I'm
I'm
saying?
following.
Like I'm listening to someone. I don't know if this sounds as in my head it makes sense, but I don't know if it's making sense as it comes out of my mouth.
Yeah,
But that's what I mean. Like
adaptability.
again, you can. Anytime you're faced with a hard decision, it's like, okay, what do? Do you face it and give up, or do you change? Do you adapt? Do you kind of pave your own way through something? And that's what you did, right? So it's obviously like super cool and again, that's why we're here too in this podcast. Like, I saw your art. I thought this is so different, so cool. Like, I'm not an artist. I have zero artistic talent, but again, I love just different things. Like, these are the Anthony Ricciardi hearts, right? He's another like big local artist. And it's so cool. And I just love it. Like, I love bright colors. I love people that are just doing things that are different and unique and fun. Like, I know there's a lot of artists that do things that are different and unique, but sometimes it's a lot more dark or a lot more harsh colors, and that just doesn't get me going. I love the bright colors, the flowers, the floral prints, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess.
No, I feel you, man. Honestly, adaptability is like a really crucial thing to have when you're doing any sort of like adventure or idea. Like when I was talking about my daily art challenge and not expecting to sell my artwork, like I started selling because people were asking,
Where do I buy this?
Yeah. And like that was like a fork in the road kind of moment, right? Where it was like, damn, if I start selling artwork, will I be able to focus on my main goal, which is like, I want to make one piece of art every day for this year. And it was like, I know a lot of artists also struggle with the idea of like, oh, if I'm not satisfied with it, no one is allowed to have it. But the way I looked at it was, if people want it, it's ready to be out there. Like, I should enable that.
Well, I think that's one thing too with art. Like, art's so objective, and it's like, I feel like even with like musicians that we listen to, they might not like one of the songs that they're putting out, but everyone else loves it.
That
It might not be their favorite
biggest
song.
hit.
It might be their biggest hit.
Yeah.
That might not be your favorite piece, but that might be someone's favorite piece.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's fascinating because I decided, okay, I'm gonna try and figure out how to sell my prints, and I figured out like a business model that let me kind of focus on creating artwork while selling my prints and having somebody else kind of take care of the logistical side of things. And a lot of artists still message me, and I don't know if it's recording. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
it
not
is.
moving.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just it's getting caught up.
Okay.
But I appreciate you.
Yeah, no worries.
We've had episodes where this has happened.
Yeah.
But no, I caught it earlier doing that. And I was like, that's why I brought the mouse
Okay.
aside.
Yeah. Just like
Yeah,
avoiding
you never
free
know,
goes.
right? That's why I've been keeping an eye on it.
Yeah. Yeah, artists will like message me being like, hey, like, I just want to know like how I can sell my artwork. Like, what did you do? And oftentimes it's like a hard question to answer, because it's really like, I don't know, I feel like they're looking for like a secret or like a cheat code, like something I did that like, they can just do.
Replicate, yeah.
And it's like really a matter of like, you just got to make more art. Like, you can start selling your art when people want to buy it. Like, that's what happened in my case. Like, I had no intention of selling. I had the intention of creating. And when people asked to purchase my work, I figured out how to let them do that. But if my intention is I want to sell my artwork, how do I like go about and do it? If my artwork's not good enough to sell, like, no one's going to buy it. Like, you're going to be, I don't know.
But you
always
clearly
a little
had
short.
some sort of like talent that like, just like, you've obviously had it, but you started all this pretty recently.
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't been a long time. People have been in this industry for 10, 15 years and still haven't made it to where they want or where like their goals are. And there's always like room to grow and everything like that. But you did have a fast growth. Like, was that a lot for you, or just like kind of came naturally?
The like growth,
Yeah.
I think I wanted that growth. Like when you embark on a goal as ambitious as like, I want to make one art piece a day, like, it was with the intention of like growing my Instagram audience. And when I started, I had like less than 1,000 followers, and by the end of 2020, thanks to that goal, I think capped at like 17K. And then by the end of 2021, that's when I did the billboard campaign, I think hit like 80 or 90K. And then now I'm sitting at like 180-ish K, give or take. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg kind? Like, you made the art because you wanted to make one piece a day, but then you also have to sell it because that's how you need to support what you're trying to do. And a lot of times people make art with the sole purpose of selling it, and that's like their business. But then there's the artists that make it because they want to create, they want to do. But then again, you can't do one without the other, because if you're not creating, you have nothing to sell. And if you're creating just to sell, then you might not be putting together the best possible product. It's such a fine line of like the middle ground. And I guess the way you did it's like, start by creating. Just have your goal, create it. If people want to buy it, then sell it. If people don't want to buy it, then create because that's what you want to do, and that was your goal. And eventually you'll get to that point where people want to buy. If you create enough things, I don't want to say art's like a quantity over quality, because obviously it needs to be quality in order for people to buy. But it is one of those things where if you're not creating quantity, how do you know what's going to be your quality? Like, you need enough. You got to take enough shots to get a couple in, right? If you only take one shot, you think this is a home run. Well, what happens if you miss?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I like using a lot of nature analogies. I don't know if it's
I'm a sports
like,
guy. I'm a sports
yeah, yeah. I'm a flower guy. So I like to think of it like a plant. Like, people always ask, artists always ask, like, how do I find my style the way you found your style? And the thing is, like, everyone has it inside of them, right? Like, your existence is like a manifestation of you can call it style, you can call it expression, but like, all of your experiences, all of the things that you've ever touched at a store because you thought that particular thing was interesting over somebody else, all of those things define you and your taste. And that is like a seed. And the more quantity that you make, that's like nourishment for that seed, and it'll grow, and you can nourish it with whatever you like. And the beauty about focusing on quantity over quality at the beginning is that it gives you a lot of information to see like what is working and what is not working, and quickly calibrate and focus on the direction that you want it to go. So you can say your seed is sprouting in the wrong direction, you're not liking that, you can start putting like what are those things in gardens,
the tomato poles,
and like start like navigating the vine to go in a different direction, and then you keep fertilizing it, and then it'll eventually become a tree before you know it. But if you're not giving that seed that taste like in you, the nourishment to express itself in its like full mature form, like you're not gonna get, you will get there, it'll just take you a lot longer.
Makes sense. I thought you were gonna say with the plant metaphor, I thought you were gonna be like, you know what, you got to plant enough seeds so that one will grow or something.
No,
you got to plant like 50 seeds and hope you got like one that sprouts. And I thought you were gonna give like some like flower that never sprouts. One of those like weird ones that's never grows.
No, that's a comforting thing, right? Like, you don't have to plant a million seeds and hope one of them grows. Like, we all have this one seed, and you can grow it as fast as you want to. And I think there's a lot of like comfort in that, because it's just a matter of putting in the effort.
Yeah. And it's about putting in the right effort too.
Yeah.
You can't just try and kind of keep beating a dead horse, or keep punching the wall. Okay, try this. If it doesn't work, okay, pivot a little bit, adapt, find out what worked. Okay, I really like this did okay, but people or myself or people really like this one aspect. Okay, let me take this one aspect, try it again. It's like what you were doing. Okay, you were doing the portraits. Okay, it was working, you were doing okay, then it got flagged. Okay, it got taken down. How can I transition that? Okay, I also like flowers. Let's combine the two, and now you've got this, I don't want to say recipe for success, but you've got your nourishment for your seed, and your seed is, blossoming right now because of it. Mm-hmm. Right? If you just kept doing the portraits and they kept getting taken down, it's like, okay, you're giving the wrong type of effort in because you're not adapting. You're just sticking to what you thought was good nourishment, but in reality, it might not have been, right?
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for some people.
Oh, fuck. I can imagine.
Like, it really is about like being very intentional with how you go about like the consistency. Like, for example, with my daily art challenge, it wasn't just like, let me make anything that I want for like a year. I knew what I sucked at. It was actually portraits. I sucked so hard.
Wait, you were bad at portraits?
I was bad at
Wow.
portraits. In art school, I was doing like landscapes and like
Man does
abstract
portraits for a
sculpture.
living, and he was
I
bad
know.
at it, eh?
I know, but like that's the thing, right? Like I exposed myself to the area that I was weakest at, and I also knew that I was really bad at like value. I don't know if like value is a term that most people understand, but it's essentially like being able to understand how dark or how light something is
Okay.
just by looking at it, so you can accurately capture that in your artwork.
Sorry, randomly before I forget, if you were bad at portraits, what were you good at?
Landscapes.
Landscapes. Okay.
Yeah. I was a landscape artist. I was born in Bangladesh. So in art school, I was very inspired by the Group of Seven, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Canadian
yeah,
landscape
yeah.
artists.
Fucking,
So I
that
was
made
like-
it to Bangladesh.
No, it didn't. I
Oh.
started. I studied in Waterloo, but like
Well, you
as
said Bangladesh. I was like, okay. Well,
Yeah,
fuck, I didn't
yeah.
imagine that. The group of seven.
no, I
My
mean
art teacher was right. They were big. Like,
they're I don't know if they made it to Bangladesh like that, but like I guess being a Bengali born kid moving to Canada at such a young age, like growing up with like this uncertainty about who I was, what my identity is, like am I South Asian or Desi or am I Canadian? I started painting Bengali landscapes in the same style as the Group of Seven to kind of just speak to this like ambiguity. So you would look at some of these paintings, or that was my intention, and it would seem familiar because it's the same artistic style that like Lauren Harris or Tom Thompson was painting in, but the landscape itself was like very
that we wouldn't-
unfamiliar.
Yeah, something we would have never have seen.
Yeah, and like I thought that was like a cool way to like speak to like my existence as a person.
This is a fucking deep episode. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, good for you, man. Like,
Do you miss like painting landscapes? Like now that you're like focusing more on like the portraits and like
Yeah,
the plants, the flowers,
pop art, yeah,
the
it's like
pop
very
art.
different.
Like it is very like those are two different like kind of
Very,
genres.
yeah,
I don't
very.
even know how to say it. Is it genre?
Genre, yeah.
yeah, no, for sure. I do, and I think you were also talking about like as like someone running a business, you have to figure out what like is authentic to you, but then you also have to think about what will sell. And one of the issues, I think a lot of like big musicians feel the same way, is that like, you know, you created something that has so much success, people want more of the same thing. How do you adventure and do something that's different from what, you know, I was interested in 2 years ago? Because I am interested in different things now, but there's this like pressure that kind of keeps momentum going, and it like makes me feel anxious to try new things. But one like great thing that's happened out of all of this are like the corporate kind of partnerships that I'm getting to do, and a lot of these like proposals, I guess we can call them, or like projects, ask me to create stuff that are different from my usual. So for the project I did with Adidas, it was like kind of like a landscape project really, where they wanted me to create a piece inspired by Queen Street West. But my question was, how do I can't just make a landscape piece because that's not what people know me for, and I like painting portraits. So how can I hybridize these two things? So I used myself as like a base, and then I covered my face with elements of Queen Street West. So I had the 501 streetcar, I had the Trinity Bellwoods Park gates, I had like some of the cool quirky building facades. So it's like landscape elements, but like contextualized within a portrait. And I like extending on that, I went to Banff a couple months ago, and that was just so beautiful. And I found that like the paintings of Banff and the artwork of Banff are so like what you would expect to see of like artwork of Banff, and I want to take my stab at it, and I want it to do it my way, where it's like, okay, how would Nashid Chroma make a Banff piece? And I think like, you know, like when you think about the essence of something, like I have an idea, I have a concept, and I think once I execute it, people will be like, yeah, of course that's what that would look like. I just have to like realize it. But it's like, it's scary because it's not what people expect of me, you know?
But it's also true because when people see something, once it's done, it's easy to say, oh yeah, that reminds me of so-and-so. But on the flip side, before they see it, they'll be like, oh, how would you have done a Banff piece?
Well, it's like you could ask 10 people probably that are like familiar with your art. How would you think that I would do a piece of Banff? Like, are you doing like Lake Louise?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how would you do that? And they probably all come up with a different answer, and then yours would be completely different. And then they see yours and be like,
Oh, why didn't I?
wow,
Yeah.
why didn't I think of that? Like,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of a fun game.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think so too. But yeah, I think that like it just speaks to like the maturity of what my like style tree is at right now, right? Like I am able to like produce fruit that people don't expect, but I know like what I can make or like what I'm capable of. And like now like brands reach out to me and they're like, hey, like I have this really cool project right now. I can't really disclose who I'm doing it for, but they have like an iconic magazine, and they asked me to like reinterpret one of their like magazine covers into like some like my own style. And it's like the cover is so, it's a beautiful cover. It has a great palette, and it is like, it's like a cake. It's like literally a cake with like a champagne glass, and it's like, okay, how do I turn that into my own thing? And it's like, it's cool because like I came up with the concept, I showed them, they were like, whoa, that's sick. And it's gratifying, you know, that people can come to me and like you can be like, hey, like can you like make a painting of like my chair, or like, you know, the trope of like, hey, can you paint my dog? And like I'll never just paint your dog now, because it's like I'm really thinking about like, okay, I don't like painting animals, but if I have to paint an animal, what inspires me about this process? And that's kind of like why my tagline is like truly inspired, you know, like a Nike Just Do It.
Yeah.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
So do you sell most of your work through like you're creating, this is what I'm doing, this is what I feel, or by people like commissioning you to be like, hey, this is what I want?
Oh, I don't do commissions anymore
No.
unless it's for like a big brand
A
or
big
someone
brand.
that like I would like to work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most of it's more just like you're
Just whatever
creating
I
whatever
make.
you're inspired by, and then you're selling that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who is something that you would do a commission piece for?
The Weekend.
So you'd be like, you've
Yeah.
already kind of done it, right? Like
Yeah, but
your
like
earlier days and
it would
stuff,
be
yeah.
it'd be crazy, right? Like, cause if like
it'd be like a full circle moment, kind of.
yeah, like if like any of these like role models to me reached out and wanted to work together, like it would truly be a collaborative piece, right? Like I love working independently. One of the reasons I didn't like architecture was how client focused it was. Like I wanted to create stuff for myself. I wanted to use my judgment and exercise my taste. But in experiences where I am working with these brands, or like in the past, like with clients, like for commissions, and we would collaborate, like the output is always something beyond something I can just conjure up myself, and I grow from that. So I love that. And being able to work with someone who truly inspires me, it's like, what would that even look like? It's so exciting.
Makes sense. What was your big break? Like, what was that moment that you're like, I'm gonna do this full time? I can't not. I'm gonna do this. I can do this full time now. Like, what was the piece that gave you that like aha moment where you're like, I got this?
I got fired.
Well, no, then that started the, you know, I'm gonna do this one a day kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
But what was that piece where you're just like, you realize that, okay, I can do this for the rest of my life?
Like I don't have to keep looking for jobs on LinkedIn in architecture.
I had like a goal. I was like, if I can do like 8 sales a day, I can maybe think about doing this full time and see where it goes from there. And just before I got let go, I was like hitting roughly those numbers. So I was ready to maybe consider like quitting like in February or something. I just wanted to build up my nest egg a little bit more. But I got let go like earlier than I anticipated. And so that put a lot of pressure under me to make this work. But thankfully I had so much momentum in like just creating. I had like taught myself how to use Facebook ads, and like my now wife has always been like my social media coach. She has like a very strong grasp of marketing, and I don't think I could have been doing any of this without her, because there's a creation side of things, but then there's also the sharing side of things. How do you get your shit in front of the people who want to see your shit?
Yeah. And so it kind of worked out that you got let go, to be honest, because if you didn't, then maybe you wouldn't have had the same fire the thing that drives you sometimes is that need to succeed.
For sure.
Right? If you were working part-time, even if you're working full-time, you would have been like, okay, it's not a big deal if I didn't hit my goal today, no big deal. Well, when you need that money and you don't have that job and you're kind of grinding, you're like, you need to hit that. Okay, what else can I do? Like, what other avenues am I not chasing? Or maybe if you're working full-time, you skipped one day of making art. Okay, it's not the end of the world, right? Because, I'm still working. I had a long day at work. I'm tired. I'm just going to go to bed. But when you don't have that job, you don't have that comfort blanket, you're just like, I have to fucking do this. Like, there's no other option, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easy to focus on that moment as like it's a good thing that happened, without really looking at like the days where I felt guilty about working on my art. Like, I could be taking initiative at my full-time work, the people who are paying my bills, but like I am intentionally choosing to focus on my shit, myself, and like I felt greedy for doing that. And I am happy that I was forced to make it work, but more so than that, what I'm most grateful for is like choosing to prioritize myself from the beginning. And every time I felt guilty about prioritizing myself over somebody else, I'm so glad that I did that.
That's like a really hard thing to do. I think for me, especially.
Definitely for you.
For me, I have a really hard time prioritizing myself. Like, it's always, I'm like a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with my friends. Like, I want to make sure everyone's okay around me in every aspect of my life. So I commend you for that, because I wish I could.
Yeah, I'm the opposite now. I put myself, I've had days where I didn't do that, and I've had moments, and I've had like parts of my life where I put other people first, and gotta make sure that everybody's okay, take care of your friends, take care of your family, blah blah blah, and then you suffer. And it's like, fuck no. From now on, I tell everybody this: I am the most important person in my life at all fucking times. I don't have kids yet. I don't have a wife yet. Maybe when I have kids and a wife, that'll change. I'm sure when I have kids, it'll change for sure. But I am the most important person in my life, and nobody will tell me otherwise. And I've learned over my years too that when you prioritize yourself and you are your best self, you're able to give more to others. Even though that they're taking a second place to your first, them being a second to your first, they will still benefit more because you are your best self. You're the best version of yourself. When you prioritize other people ahead of you, what happens to those days where you're only 50% of who you are and you're giving that 50% to someone else? Well, what do you have left? Nothing. I've always said this. There's a reason when you're on the airplane and the fucking oxygen mask comes down, they say put your mask on before you help others. Because what good are you if you're fucking dead or if you're not there? You can't help others. Always said that, and I will, until I have kids, even when I have my wife will fucking know that I'm putting myself first, lady, and you will benefit the most from it, but I'm putting myself first. And I will, knock on wood, hopefully I make it there one day, but I will always put myself first.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good attitude. Hopefully you find somebody that makes you want to.
Yeah, but no, but on the opposite side, I want her to put herself first too.
Yeah,
I want to be the second to her one in her eyes, right?
No,
because
for sure.
I've dated women too, and this is a little bit too much of a range, but I've dated women who've put me before them.
Yeah,
and it ruined their happiness in their life. If I wasn't having a good day, they were having a bad day. It's like, whoa, why are you having a bad day? Well, I need you to do this, or I want you to, blah, blah. It's like, well, fuck me for a second. Take care of you. You're having a bad day and you're trying to help me right now. We're both having bad days. You go work on yourself. I'll go work on myself, and we'll both be good. Give us a couple hours, but like go to the whatever makes you happy. Yoga, I don't know, whatever women do these days, right? Take care of yourself, and then the rest of us, we can come back together after, and I'll take care of myself, and we'll be good together.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a little off topic. I want to ask, and I've been thinking about this. What's your favorite piece you've ever made?
I was gonna ask that question. It's been in my brain for like literally.
Honestly, I've been waiting for it.
I've also
I'm so
just got
curious.
Vicky's message. She has the J. Cole.
The J. Cole one. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, what's your? I've been wanting to ask. I'm like, I feel like we didn't have a good. There was no good time to ask yet. That's why I was waiting. I was like, okay, what's your favorite?
My personal favorite one is my floral weekend piece I did with the balloons covering his eyes. It's like named after his original trilogy, House of Balloons. That one was like particularly challenging because it was a moment where like I had this like idea, like I need to incorporate balloons somehow, and every iteration of it, like in the concepting phase, looked like trash, and I really wanted to make this work so the people who understood my intention could appreciate it, and I needed it to look sexy. And I remember like just feeling frustrated with like not being able to finalize a composition that I was happy about, and remembered like I love music. I should just listen to this guy's original mixtape and see what that makes me feel. Maybe that'll give me some ideas. And I remembered exactly why I fell in love with it the first time I listened to it. It was like all the crunchy like synth notes and the bass lines and how like brooding and dark it was. And that inspired me to use like this glitch effect where I had the balloons, but I applied this glitch effect so the balloons were kind of like split. And that helped compositionally because a balloon's just like this round thing and it looks kind of weird just in...
Especially in pop art.
Yeah. So by breaking it up, I kind of ended up having 2 half circles. And by having these 2 half circles, I was able to... That's the one.
There we go. I was wondering, Mike, are you Googling shit right now?
Yeah. It's just on my phone.
That's it.
'Cause I wanted to
So
like,
that's your favorite.
That's my favorite. I'm a
It's
huge
sick.
Weekend fan. Like,
So, but
yeah, you are. And Kate, I was gonna say this. It's kind of refreshing to have like a local Toronto artist not say Drake.
yeah.
very valid point, Danny.
I just feel like everyone like they'd be like, oh, I'd love to like make a piece for Drake. I'd love to do this, and like you just, I feel like you just don't hear The Weeknd as often anymore.
Even though he's almost equally as big.
No,
as Drake
he's
now.
equally as big, but you just don't hear it. The average person in Toronto would just
Yeah, I agree.
automatically see Drake first just because of his connection to the city, whereas The Weeknd hasn't really kept that connection as much. So it's very refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. He also like grew up in Scarborough. I'm a Scarborough kid. And like, I think
He's
musically.
roughly our age too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, damn.
He is?
Like, yeah.
Yeah, he's like what?
2 years
30-ish?
older?
I thought he was
31
older.
or something.
He has like 32.
He's roughly my age. Yeah, I know he's right.
33?
You're gonna be
30.
31 now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I'm gonna be 33. So, what's your best-selling piece? Is that Rude Task?
No,
No, that's not
I
rude to
don't
ask.
think that's rude to ask.
Yeah.
My best-selling piece is the Mac Miller piece. The circles piece.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's the first piece I saw of yours.
Yeah.
That may have been.
And that was the poster that was up, the billboard that was
Right
up on
here?
Queen. Yeah.
Whose idea was the billboard thing? Was it yours or your wife's?
That one was mine.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
that was my idea.
How
But
did it
they
come
helped
up?
me
You just
execute
driving
it.
down like Spadina one day. I'm like, fuck. You know what? I'm putting a billboard right there. Like, how do you come up with that?
Yeah, so I mean, going back to like our original
Because this is
conversation.
COVID too, though, right? Like you're
just
saying
coming out of
2021.
COVID. Yeah. I was getting rejected from all these like spots and like feeling really frustrated about it, and I knew my artwork could like, I guess, I knew my art had value, and I just needed to showcase it. And I walked by like a TTC stand that had like a really sick looking poster on it, and I was like, huh, this could work. Maybe. I wonder how much it costs. So then I like took the name of the agency and I contacted them, and we were able to like figure out a budget. And the original idea, like my wife's component in this was she pushed me to like really make it big. Like I had originally maybe thought about just doing like a couple billboards, but she encouraged me to do like the bike share network and the TTC stops as well, and like get like this combo package, which was like my entire life savings, like all the money that I had made up making art.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it was very expensive.
Well, you're not a big corporation. You're an individual artist.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're not fucking, I don't know, Loblaws or like Walmart where it's okay, it's a drop in the bucket to spend, I don't know, 30, 40K or whatever, right? Like, that's think about how many paintings how many like digital prints you would have to sell to make that kind of money, right? Like, it's a lot of fucking money.
It was a lot of money, and
He's thinking like, fuck, man, if I tell you how much it was.
yeah, I mean, I you know what? Maybe I'll just be transparent. Like that cost me roughly $80K. It was like a down payment on like
A condo, yeah.
Yeah. But this was like my investment in myself. Like there was a down payment on my business, my craft, my career. And because it was so expensive, I knew I had to like do more with it. And that's when I turned it into the social media scavenger hunt so that I could see, the impact on it on social media. And I was using Facebook ads at the time, and I knew if I can get people to engage with the stuff in the physical world, in the social media space, I can then show them ads and then encourage them to buy my work and support me.
See, that's the scariest part too, is like you paid the money to do this campaign, and then you got to pay more money to promote the campaign you're currently running. Because it's not just, okay, I'm going to put these billboards up and we're good. It's like, okay, well, no, how do I connect it? I'm going to be selling these digitally. How do I connect the physical painting or the physical art that's like on a billboard to the digital side? You got to promote that, and it's like, fuck. So that 80K is not just 80K. It's 80K plus on the back end.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it was...
I'd be shitting my fucking pants.
It was scary. It was scary, but...
Like, did you know it was going to work, or were you like, fuck, I don't know, this is wild? Like, are you sitting there holding your, I guess, girlfriend or wife's hand at the time, like, fuck, are we going to do this? Is this fucking happening? Like...
Well, once the money was gone, the first billboard was up in like 2 weeks. And seeing it, it was like, I don't even give a fuck what happens, because my fucking artwork is 6 stories tall. It's fucking at Queen and Spadina. Like, that's my painting. I don't give a fuck. That's just getting a photo of this is worth it. But yeah, it was like hugely successful. It was hugely successful. Like, people stop me on the street like once a day, like, yo, are you Nashid Chroma? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And it's like a trip. And they're like, yo, like, I saw your work all around the city. It's crazy. That's how I discovered you. And like, to this day, I'm seeing the dividends of that campaign.
It makes sense. Well, again, all those followers you got, probably you gained what, 100K followers from that campaign, probably, like, all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
You're still probably getting followers because of like the residual effects of those campaigns, because people like walk into Vicky's house and see the picture, like, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, he does all these things. Like, do you remember those billboards like last year or whatever?
Yeah, my friends like who work remotely and like they're working on American companies will like see my artwork on like their Zoom calls of their coworkers' space. Like, yo, is that like your artwork?
Yeah.
Is that Nashid's artwork? And like their coworkers are like, yeah, that is. Like, you know him? Oh yeah, he's from Toronto. And they're like, yeah, like that's like one of my like closest childhood friends.
That's crazy. Do you sell internationally?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's like your biggest market right now, if you don't like mind?
Good one.
The States is definitely like they just have a huge
most amount of people.
population.
But it's also great that a Toronto local artist, and I'm saying Toronto local just because you are based out of here now, but you are coming, like, I guess you're from everywhere.
Yeah.
From all your moves.
No, but I'm a Toronto man.
But you're Toronto. Like, if that's
Toronto
like
mans.
I'm a Toronto man still.
But that you've been able to like expand into the US market, because think like how many people are actually in the US compared to here, and like someone from Toronto. But I feel like that's with everyone. Like, we have so much talent here in Toronto that people don't give it enough praise.
Yeah, but it's also tough to get discovered, especially in the States, right? Like,
yeah, but the fact that like his biggest market is in the US is like an amazing thing.
Yeah, the fact that you've made it out there is like that. Again, that's how you have to make it, especially in the creative space. Being, well known or big in Canada is one thing, but once you break out into the States, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, and like I really want to show my love to Toronto. Like, my apparel stuff is closing at the end of August because of like supplier stuff, but we're gonna come back in a couple months with like a completely reimagined like apparel line, and like on all the tags it's gonna be like Nashid Chroma Toronto, like, the way like Scotch and Soda will have Amsterdam, or like Burberry has like London. Like Toronto deserves that magnitude of a spot, and like I'm hoping that I can be one of hopefully many brands and figures that like continue to do that. So in terms of like Drake, like that's something that I really admire about him. Like he's really made
he's always kept Toronto
hype.
Yeah,
always.
Sorry, I just have a question, and this is just piggybacking off what we said about like, when you sat there and we were like, holy shit, my art's like here, like it is up. Is there like somewhere else where you would want, like, could do, like, maybe you're not doing it, but like would want to see your artwork up there?
Yeah, I mean, like
I'm just like
'cause-
thinking of
Like
an
a dr-
answer in my
You're
head.
thinking a dream venue,
No, like I'm like it's like not
or
dream.
like a dream spot. You're thinking
It's just like imagine
Times
like just
Square?
imagine yourself in Times Square and like your artwork's all over Times Square. Like,
Yeah,
is there
that'd be
somewhere
crazy.
like
honestly, like I
I
think.
could see it. Yeah, I could see that.
Thank you.
Like I just see it in Times Square. You know, like how they do the Coca-Cola bottle where it fills up. I could just picture the portrait and then the flowers just like slowly growing
Bloom.
up.
That's an
Blooming.
idea I had actually for like a weekend piece. But anyway,
But like
that's
when
a
they
different-
release like a new album, it's part of the album cover and it's like comes out and it's their head and the flowers are blossoming.
Mhm.
Wait, do you do like?
animations,
yeah.
no, but I am friends
I'll take
with
10%. Don't worry.
I am friends with a guy who does all those like crazy animations for like huge musicians like SZA, Drake, Travis Scott. Like, so I connected with him, and we've been in talks about making one of these ideas come to life. I don't know
I
when
feel like
that's
it's like
gonna
a
happen.
very organic next step.
Yeah. How do you add like more texture to
But
the
but especially
movement?
for something like a billboard, right? Like,
Yeah.
because now a lot of the billboards are going digital too, which kind of works out even better for you because your art is meant to be viewed more digitally than it is physically, anyways.
Mhm.
Right? Is it? Actually, I don't know. Is that a
No.
fair assumption?
It's meant to be viewed large.
Okay, that's.
I think
okay.
that's like the only
Yeah.
prerequisite that I'd have. Like, I actually stopped selling the smallest version of my prints just because I personally didn't find that had the most impact. And I love, like, when I'm working in a digital space, the thing with working in digital space is you're not confined to like, your
Borders.
physical canvas. Like, I'm zooming in and I'm adding like all this texture, all these abstract details.
that a paintbrush can't get.
Like a paintbrush could get, but you'd have to be working on a
massive,
canvas
yeah.
that was like 8 feet by 10 feet. And like, that's why the bigger these artworks are printed, the more of those like subtle nuances you'd be able to see and appreciate.
so you do everything off the iPad?
Yeah.
What
Right now.
size of iPad do you have?
I have the 12.5-inch one.
So,
the
like-
Pro.
Oh, so it's like almost the size of a laptop.
It's almost the size of a laptop.
Like,
Yeah. But you can keep zooming in.
because like my dad came home one day with like a massive one this big.
Uh-huh.
Mike Denny.
Oh, like just like a massive one. I'm like, this is a computer. This isn't an iPad anymore. Like,
Yeah.
we need a keyboard for this.
Yeah, no, this is like 12, like that big.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where do you get your inspo from? Like, it's just an artist that you've heard on the radio recently with a new song or a song that's stuck in your head. Like, how does the concept start?
Yeah, I mean,
Like the next piece you're working on. Give us a rundown on that, or the last piece.
yeah, I guess I'm also working on a new Post Malone piece. I love Post Malone. I saw him in concert like
So
a
did
couple of
I.
weeks ago.
Bang, unreal.
Oh my god, that was
I
crazy.
sing every time he sings "I Fall Apart."
Oh my!
I've seen him
God.
live at least like 5 or 6 times now, and every time I hear that song,
You fall apart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now. I'm like,
I'll have to send you this piece then.
I feel his fucking pain.
I
When I
know.
hear that song, I feel pain. And it's like, I don't know if he's feeling the pain or if he's just the best actor alive. Like, but every single time, the way his body moves and the way he sings and the kind of extra raspiness in his voice, I'm like, yo, I fucking feel. Anyways, so.
That's the thing, man. Like, like you can look at these like huge pop stars and like wonder what their lives are like, but like after having, and like that's the thing, like when I'm creating my artwork, I'm trying to channel that, like what would Post Malone be feeling, like how do you empathize with these people that we idolize? Like how do you add this human element?
That was great.
Thank you.
You just said that was really good.
Thank you.
That
Like
hit.
they are people, and the thing is, like, not a lot of people can understand artists, but they can feel what artists create. And like artists have like a personality type. Like we are very sensitive, and like when we tune into the things that move us, even if he doesn't feel that sadness he felt when he wrote that song way back when, I'm sure he has the ability to channel that every time he performs it.
And then make us feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, it's like when,
translating emotions.
yeah,
right?
it's like when artists write songs about breakups, and then a year later they're happily married or in the best place. But when they sing that breakup song, they still give it to the fans, and they still want the fans to feel like what that's going through, right? Or what they were going through, because again, that's what you want. art is meant to make people feel. And I strongly believe that whether it's happiness, sadness, it's meant to give you an emotion. And, you know, you listen to, I don't know, what's a good song on the radio right now? A new Drake song or a new Weeknd song. You feel like happy, you want to dance, you want to like, you're feeling all like high on life. And then you can listen to a Post Malone, you know, I Fall Apart, and feel fucking pain. And then you can, the next song on the radio, some Ariana Grande song that's like all upbeat and happy, and you can feel that more.
Yeah, but all her upbeat, happy songs actually have to do with her breakup.
Yeah, or even like listen to like a Mac Miller. Like you listen to a Mac Miller song, you feel like a lot of times you feel happiness, but then you realize that fuck, that guy was, you know, dealing with some shit, right? That guy was battling demons, and you're like, holy fuck, like how can you feel happiness listening to this, knowing what happened, and knowing that he wasn't in a place of happiness when he was writing these songs or performing these songs. So it's just interesting to think of. Anyway, so back to the emotion. Back to the inspiration. So you're working on a Post Malone piece because I guess you saw him recently, and that's what fires you up, or?
Yeah, well, I wanted to make a Post Malone piece for a while. There's like a few elements I'm considering when I'm making a new piece. You know, like what do I want to make? What is like trending right now? Like, is Post Malone dropping a new album? He just dropped a new album. I was hoping to have that done for that time, but like, you know, life happens, and on our back end, like now it's like we're expanding the business. My wife and my brother are like my business partners, and we're like trying to figure out how to take this to the next level. And in doing so, I'm learning a whole bunch of other stuff. That's a different conversation. We can talk about that stuff after, but I'm making art a lot slower. All that to say, these are the factors I'm thinking about, and what do people want me to paint? So there are times where I'm painting people that I have no like history with, you know, I have no musical context of a relationship with, but people want me to paint, you know, say when I painted Prince. I didn't listen to Prince growing up, but it was like a cool opportunity to like expose myself to new music and try to figure out what it was that inspired me by Prince, and like channeling that into that piece so that the people who wanted to see, you know, a Prince piece as I would make it could like resonate with. But like, yeah, it's like, it's weird because sometimes people don't resonate. Like the people who wanted Prince might not like my rendition of Prince, but it's because I don't have the same emotional connection to Prince as like someone who grew up listening to Prince does. But my goal is what to translate what my connection is, you know, and try to make that as authentic as possible.
I have a really random question, but do you
Sure.
like listen to the artist's music when you're doing it?
I will listen during the research phase, but when I'm painting, I usually don't.
Like,
Sometimes it can be distracting.
So are you in like completely silence?
No.
No. Like,
No,
just,
I
like,
do need
background?
music.
He's listening to The Weeknd, man.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of lo-fi music
Oh,
to
really?
chill and relax to.
Interesting.
Yeah, lo-fi kind of just like, it's like repetitive and like monotonous enough where I can just keep like a rhythm of painting. During the pandemic, when Animal Crossing was huge, I didn't get into the Animal Crossing like wave, but I was listening to Animal Crossing music just to like feel like I was a part of it. So I'll like just do stuff like that. I'll listen to like video game music or like things that like, you know, are calming but like not like
Not
Elevator,
distracting.
yeah, some elevator music.
Yeah, literally, because like you can be listening to an artist and feeling good, and then suddenly like a song that like annoys you comes on,
and then
then
yeah.
it's like derailed. Like that can set me off. So like I like putting stuff on that is very kind of just like I can expect just comfort or like peace.
Yeah, that's fair. You said you do art like a lot of like based on like what's happening, who's popular, like what's trending. Do you ever like think about, I don't know, like recently the Barbie movie, or Oppenheimer, like doing Margot Robbie, or who's the guy from Oppenheimer from?
Cillian Murphy.
That's it, yeah. Like you think about, like, you know what, those movies are coming out, those are going to be the biggest blockbuster movies of the year. Like I'm going to do something like that, or do you like kind of more stick to the music side?
It's mostly music because of my relationship with it. Like when I was younger, I was producing music.
Oh, fuck,
And
I
then
didn't
in
know
like
that.
undergrad, I was DJing. So
Oh.
like I have like a very intimate relationship with music. And I
Were you
think
good at DJing?
I was pretty good.
Oh yeah,
I
you're not gonna
didn't
sit here
like,
and tell me you were shit. So
like I did like mostly like frat parties and keggers and
okay,
stuff
that's
like
fair.
that.
What was your DJ name?
Fusion.
Fusion.
DJ
Okay.
Fusion.
Wait, is Nashid Chroma your real name, or is that like an artist name?
Nashid is my real name. My last name is Chowdhury.
Okay, I was gonna say Chroma's a sick last name.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Chroma means colorfulness, and I knew I wanted an alias because, like, again, taking inspiration from music, like, I love like a sick stage name, and I just needed something that like made sense. Chroma worked because I was very interested in color, and like the CH in Chroma also aligns with the CH in Chowdhury, so it was. And
But Chowdhury's a little bit harder to say.
Chowdhury, I mean, if you really focus, it's not so bad, but
How do you spell it?
CHOWDHURY. Chowdhury.
Yeah, I guess that. But mind you, if you're just reading it, might be a little tricky.
Maybe.
Chowdhury.
I don't know. Depends.
Depends, yeah.
But yeah, Chroma was like
badass.
yeah. I just wanted to like speak to my art, and I love color, so
Makes
it made
sense. Makes sense. We are nearing that point. That I got a couple.
Already? Yeah, you go. Sorry,
What-
I'm just like thinking. I'm just so in awe. Like so like.
Well, I do want to say because I kind of screwed up Danny's question. But what is like a dream spot you'd want to see your art?
Well,
Like,
I mean,
if you
like
see it in a spot, you're like, I made it. This is it.
I would love to see my art at AGO, honestly. Like,
Really?
I feel like that'd be sick. Like to have like an exhibit there. Like I feel like it. I don't know. It's like I am Canadian, and like I am from Toronto, and like it would just be like a full circle moment. Like I am being represented by like the most prestigious art institute in like
Canada.
the country.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like what you did is almost bigger than the AGO. You know, like how many people go to AGO on a yearly basis?
A lot. It's still a thing.
Okay, so what's the number roughly? Like a few million go a year? I didn't think a few million, probably. Maybe a million or two. Think about how many people drove by your art on billboards. Like just on Spadina,
Yeah, but it's also
the
like
Spadina one
getting
alone.
your own like a full.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, that
a full
makes
space.
sense, yeah.
Like, I was at the Met last week or like 2 weeks ago, and it was like what I actually went to go see was closed.
No, that's
So it was like really funny. But then there was like this whole like Van Gogh exhibit that was happening, but it was like an hour and a half wait, so I did not wait.
So basically, you did nothing.
So I ended up going to every single exhibit I've already seen, but it was really cool.
That's fair.
Like it's still cool to be going through it, but again, it wasn't a lot of it that was available was not my type of art that I like to look at.
That's
like
fair.
I would have rather gone to the MoMA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like there is some of that
That's
appeal.
fair. Okay, so AGO's your dream venue.
AGO is a dream venue. Yeah. I feel like it's like something like within grasp. Like I can make that happen in maybe 5 years. And then in terms of like, I don't know, like I guess like there's like bigger aspirations are like not necessarily displaying art, because like I have done that, as you said. Like now it's like, who do I get to work with? I feel like that's more where my mind
bit
is
the
at. Like
partnerships
who
and,
can
like,
I
the-
collaborate with? As
Would
I
you-
get more into like fashion and apparel, like who's wearing my shit? Like who can I get to, rock my drip? Like that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, would you rather work with a brand or a person? And I know sometimes it goes hand in hand because like a lot of people are their brand. But like, would you rather work one-on-one with someone or like a company like you've worked with like Adidas and like things like that? That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
It's like working with.
No, I get the question. Either like, would you rather work with a person like Drake or a brand like Nike or like Air Jordan or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's a good question, actually. I don't know if like any big like artist will actually be like a solo work environment. I think even like these like Drake or Weeknd, they're working with teams. Like they like having multiple perspectives. It's multidisciplinary, and I think there's a lot of like benefit to that. So I think it would be cool to like have like a conversation with, say, like The Weeknd. But if I'm gonna make artwork for him, I would like to have like people on my team there. I would like to have people from his team there, so we
Because
can
you want to
like,
get to know
actually-
him. Like you said, you used
Yeah.
like the inspiration from the people and like your perspective on it. So it's like if you're seeing him and actually meeting him in person, you'll want to know those like tidbits of pieces that no one else knows, so you can incorporate that in your work. And you can probably get that more with a team.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think there's also like more opportunity. Like say there might be something like I want to do and like The Weeknd doesn't want to do, and it's like if you have more people, then there's more people that can like help kind of like clarify what like a resolution could be, right? Like it kind of also takes the awkwardness out of collaborating, because there is always tension in collaboration.
Really?
I think so. I mean, maybe it's because like
maybe it's because
like
you're also collaborating with like people in the same space. Like I was gonna say, if I commissioned you to make a piece, let's say we were gonna do something for, I don't know, whatever, and I'm saying I'm hiring you because I love your shit. I want you to do your shit. I don't want this to be a back and forth. I want to be like, here's who I am. Here's me. Here's the inspiration. Take it and go, because this is what you do. You're the expert. You're the fucking creative. But I guess it's tough when you're working with creatives because they think they're also as creative as you.
Or it's like a lot of brands though too. You have to follow certain brand guidelines and this and that. Like I'm sure when you worked with like MLSC or Adidas or anything like that, they're like, hey, you need this exact red and this exact, if you're gonna do it for a certain team. So it's like that takes away a bit of your creativity, but then you can also spin that in a way to make it your own. Yeah,
but I mean, even touching on your point, like there's also like, I know how clients are, and you can say all that, but the way I've designed my process to be is very much like inclusive of like knowing that you can say all this, you like the stuff I've already done, but we're talking about something that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'll like design a composition and then I'll show you, and a lot of times people are like, wow, that's amazing, but there's always like but can we do this? Can we do that?
But can you put my dog in here? But yeah.
I also just think that like I'm the same way as you. We're not like picky people. And especially because we don't know anything about art. Like we're not artists and any like creatives in that sense, that like we put our trust into the people.
Into the experts.
Not everyone's like that. People are very particular.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess they'll kind of one of the last ones. What's next? What's next on the agenda for you?
Yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of stuff happening at the same time. I'm working on one like brand collab, and a second one is kind of in talks right now. So there's some really exciting like new stuff that's gonna drop like later this year. We're shifting direction with apparel. So I mean, right now, all of my apparel is kind of like on the merch side of things, right? Where it's like my artwork that's printed onto t-shirts and crew necks and sweaters or whatever, and people buy it to support me. They like the artwork. They don't have the wall space, but they want to, show me love somehow. But I want to like move in a direction where it's like apparel for like the aesthetic of the apparel sake, if that makes sense. Like you see like a Christian Dior bag, it's like, holy shit, that looks fire. Like I want that like level of eliteness or like clout and vision to translate into the apparel.
You're buying it for the piece, not just because you're supporting you. It's like I'm not going to a concert and buying like a piece of merch because I like this artist. I'm buying this piece because this is a sick ass shirt.
Exactly.
And I want to wear this out in Toronto as if I'm wearing the next Dior shirt I just bought.
Yeah, exactly. And treating garments as like another medium versus just like hey, like you can buy my artwork on a t-shirt. So that's also in line. And we're shifting away like from relying on like a third party manufacturer for our prints and stuff and doing everything in-house. So it's just like a lot of moving parts. And I would also like to just create more like original stuff and like up the frequency, because right now I've like dropped as like maybe like a new piece every month and a half, but there was a point even in like 2022 where I was making like a piece every 4 or 5 days.
There was a part where you were doing it once a day.
Yeah, and like I miss that, like I truly enjoy creating, and I think I just want to re-tap into that. I know like with like when you have ambition, there are times where you have to do things that like aren't always gonna be the most pleasurable, but there are things that you have to do to get you to like that next level. But I just don't want to lose sight of like what brought me here, and I want to stay true to that. I want to create things because I'm actually inspired, and hope that in response to that, people continue to support the shit I make.
Makes sense. I guess, Dan, you got anything else? No, Nashid, man, thanks for coming on. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's like, you know what? And it's cool when you get to, and that's the coolest part about this podcast is that, like, I remember seeing it, and when I met you that time, I was like, Vicky, like, put me in touch with him. I want to get him on the podcast because it's like, I got to see his stuff. I thought it was such a cool concept. I thought it was such a cool idea. And then you get to hear all about it, and you hear like, fuck, it would cost you a fuck ton of money, and it's scared shitless. But you didn't care because you got to see it fucking 6 stories tall. So I always find it really cool when like I'm genuinely interested in somebody or what they're doing, and then you get to sit down and talk with them uninterrupted for an hour and 15 minutes or whatever it is. Because you get to hear the full story behind whatever it was, right? So hearing that full story is awesome. And if people want to find out more about you, your artwork, what you're doing, where can they go? How can they find you?
I go by Nashid Chroma on Instagram and on TikTok. NashidChroma.com is my website. You can find my prints, my apparel there. Yeah.
The website, easiest place to buy stuff?
It's the easiest place to buy stuff. Yeah.
Beauty. And then I guess, thanks for coming on. And if you made it to the end of this, guys, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Give Nashid a follow. Give Danny a follow. Share this with your friends. And we will see you next week. Cheers, guys.
You like to drink and to smoke to take away the pain. And I don't remember all of my mistakes and every high. Got alone with no one thing. You're not alright. I'm not alright.